Typhon, the father of all monsters. When Gaia pleaded with Zeus to release her Titan children from Tartarus's imprisonment, he refused. In her fury, the primordial earth goddess created a giant so terrifying that many of the gods fled from Olympus as he approached. Only Zeus stood fast to protect his home and realm, but it would be a battle that almost cost him his life. Welcome to the mysteries of mythology. Typhon. Before the terrifying emergence of Typhon, the cosmos trembled under the weight of a cosmic conflict known as the Titanomachy. This epic struggle pitted the Titans, led by the ruthless Cronus, against the challenger Olympian gods. Cronus, having seized power from his own father, Uranus, with a gleaming sickle, ruled the universe with an iron fist, his tyranny unchallenged for eons. For 10 battlefield years, the cosmos shuddered as Titans and Olympians clashed. At the end of the war, Zeus and the Olympians had won. Cronus and his Titan cohort were subdued and cast into the very depths of Tartarus. Zeus and his brothers, flush with victory, carved up the realms between them, Zeus claiming the heavens, Poseidon the seas, and Hades the underworld. Gaia, the primordial earth herself, seethed with rage at the fate of her Titan children. In her fury, she conceived a plan to unleash a force so terrifying, so utterly chaotic, that it would make the Titanomachy look like a mere skirmish. This force was Typhon, a monster born to shatter the newfound Olympian order and risk plunging the cosmos back into chaos. Typhon's birth is a tale of primordial forces of chaos colliding with the order of the Olympians. There are several versions of the telling of Typhon's creation. According to Hesiod, Typhon was a creation of the primordial goddess of earth, Gaia, and the primordial, deep, lifeless abyss, Tartarus. Other sources said that Gaia alone had given birth to Typhon. In a Homeric hymn, Typhon was the son of Hera, Zeus's wife, who was furious that her husband had given birth to Athena alone. In all versions, it was agreed that Typhon, or Typhoeus as he is sometimes called, was the greatest threat to the cosmos, chaos incarnate. He was a being of such monstrous proportions that mountains cowered in its shadow. Typhon wasn't just a giant, but a nightmarish fusion of man and beast that defied comprehension. A writhing mass of 100 dragon heads erupted from his hands, each more fearsome than the last. His lower body, rather than ending in feet, coiled and twisted like the tails of serpents, a forest of viper tails that could crush cities with a single swipe. His eyes, fiery orbs like the mouths of volcanoes before they erupted, blazed with primordial fury. His roar exploded forth and shook the entire earth like a cataclysmic earthquake. If this weren't enough to strike fear into mortal and immortal hearts, Typhon's body bristled with wings, granting him the power of flight and allowing him to rain fiery devastation upon the world below. This was no mere monster to be slain by a heroic demigod. Typhon represented an existential threat to the very concept of order in the cosmos. In Typhon, Gaia had created not just a weapon, but a force of nature that unpredictable, unstoppable, and utterly terrifying. As Typhon approached Mount Olympus, the gods and goddesses were terrified at the sight of the monstrous being. His 100 dragon heads, each spitting fire and venom, created an inferno that darkened the skies and filled the air with a cacophony of roars. His serpent coils crushed the earth beneath him, causing mountains to tremble and valleys to rise. The very ground seemed to rebel against his advance. The Olympians, witnessing this unimaginable horror, felt their courage waver. One by one, they fled from Olympus, transforming into animals, many hiding in the distant lands of Egypt. Apollo, the god of light and music, took the form of a raven and flew to the distant land of the Hyperboreans. Artemis, the huntress, transformed into a cat and hid in the forests of Crete. Even mighty Poseidon abandoned his domain of the seas, disguising himself as a horse and galloping away to the plains of Thrace. Athena, the goddess of wisdom and warfare, retreated to her temple in Athens, hoping to devise a strategy to combat this new threat. Hermes, the fleet-footed messenger, vanished into thin air, traveling to the far reaches of the earth in search of allies. Hestia, the hearth goddess, extinguished her sacred flame and went into hiding, her absence marking a significant omen of the impending doom. In this chaos, only Zeus stood firm. With his thunderbolt in hand, the king of the gods prepared to face Typhon. He knew that the fate of the cosmos hung in the balance and that he could not afford to falter. With a mighty roar, Zeus confronted Typhon. Zeus hurled his thunderbolts with all his might, each strike illuminating the darkened sky with blinding flashes of light. The bolts struck Typhon, causing explosions of fire and lightning, but the monster seemed impervious to the assault. He retaliated with his fiery breath and venomous fangs, forcing Zeus to dodge and weave to avoid being consumed by the flames. When there was little distance between them, Zeus used his adamantine sickle. Zeus could almost sense the victory, but his desire for a swift triumph left him vulnerable. After a long pursuit, Typhon suddenly turned to face his attacker, and despite his injuries, he quickly entangled Zeus in his coils. Trapped, Zeus lost his grip on the sickle. Typhon seized the weapon and used it to cut into Zeus's arms and legs, removing the sinews. Incapacitated and unable to command his limbs, Zeus was carried across the sea to a cave. The sinews, wrapped in a bear pelt like an exotic treasure, were placed under the guard of Typhon's wife, Echidna, a monstrous half-woman, half-dragon creature. Zeus was utterly helpless. He was mired in a predicament he couldn't independently escape. In this confrontation, it seemed Typhon had bested Zeus in single combat. But the story didn't end there. Hermes, herald of the gods and clever trickster, and the wild god Pan stole the sinews and secretly restrung them into Zeus's arms and legs. With his mobility restored, Zeus escaped his cave prison and retreated to Olympus. There he nursed his wounds and bided his time, waiting for his strength to fully return and prepare for the next phase of this cosmic struggle. The stage was set for a battle that would shake the very foundations of the cosmos. Having recovered from his initial defeat with Hermes and Pan, Zeus stood ready to face Typhon again. But Zeus was not alone in his fight. The Moirae, enigmatic sisters that wove the threads of fate, saw the extent of destruction Typhon would cause if he had won. They approached the monster with a tempting offer. Presenting a shimmering, otherworldly fruit, they promised Typhon unimaginable power if he consumed it. Blinded by hubris, the 100-headed beast eagerly devoured the fruit. Little did Typhon know that his formidable strength ebbed away with each bite, preparing him for his fated downfall. Typhon, now at a disadvantage and weakened, continued his desperate flight until he was driven to the foothills of a distant mountain. Realizing the futility of running further, he turned to face his pursuer. Typhon tore whole mountains from the earth with his enormous hands, hurling these colossal projectiles at his enemy. The sky blazed as incredible streaks of lightning collided with the massive arcs of flying earth. Despite Typhon's efforts, none of his launched mountains found their mark. Each projectile was met mid-air by a responding bolt, repulsed and sent crashing back to the ground. With each failed attack, Typhon realized he was losing and attempted to flee once more. This final escape proved futile. Seeing an opportunity, Zeus decided to use his enemy's tactic against him. The god let fly a mountain of his own. a projectile of immense proportions. It struck true, and Typhon found himself buried beneath the massive mountain. That mountain would come to be known as Mount Etna. From that day forward, it was said that Mount Etna would erupt whenever Zeus struck it with his lightning. The fire and ash, a testament to Typhon's enduring rage beneath the earth. With the threat neutralized, Zeus and the Olympians returned to their celestial home. The scars of battle slowly faded from the world, but the memory of that epic conflict lived on in myth and legend. Zeus's position as king of the gods was now unassailable, his power proven beyond any doubt. Yet Typhon's legacy was far from over. From his union with Echidna sprang a brood of creatures that would haunt the nightmares of gods and mortals alike for generations to come. These offspring carried within them the chaos of their father, each challenging the orderly world the gods sought to maintain. Cerberus, the three-headed hound, took its place as guardian of the underworld's gates, its ferocious loyalty a dark mirror of its father's defiance. The Hydra lurked in the swamps of Lerna, its regenerating heads a constant reminder of the persistence of chaos. The Chimera soared on leathery wings, breathing fire that scorched the land, a living embodiment of Typhon's destructive nature. Other monstrous children included Orthrus, the two-headed dog that guarded Geryon's cattle, the Nemean lion, whose impenetrable hide would one day challenge the mighty Heracles, and the Sphinx, whose riddles brought death to those who failed to plumb the depths of its twisted wisdom. Ultimately, Typhon's defeat at the hands of Zeus represented more than just the triumph of one god over a monster. It symbolized civilization's victory over barbarism, reason over madness, light over darkness. Yet, Typhon and his monstrous brood also taught a crucial lesson, that this victory is never final, never complete. The forces of chaos, though beaten once, are ever present, waiting for any opportunity to rise again.